It's time to put the good in your morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, the much debated infrastructure bill finally comes to a vote. We'll have the latest.
As the sun beats down on the 4 states, our heat advisories continue. We're also monitoring some thunderstorms to the north. All the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center. Also, what Pitt State students need to know before moving into the dorms this fall. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. This morning, the Senate is set to hold its final vote on the $1.2 trillion infrastructure deal. The White House's website breaks it down state by state. There's a fact sheet for all 50 states and Puerto Rico with how much money each could get for everything from road and bridge work to public transportation, electric vehicle chargers, and broadband. It could mean millions of jobs over the course of the next several years, but it carries a big price tag, and enactment depends on what happens next. Once the Senate finalizes the $3.5 trillion budget resolution, both plans will head to the House. At Monday night's Joplin work session, City Manager Nick Edwards presented the council with the city budget for 2022. The city manager says their biggest goal for the upcoming fiscal year is to improve city services. These services include addressing declining neighborhoods, public safety, and homelessness.
We're trying to position ourselves in a way that, in a position where we can do what we can to address citizen needs, but there is a tremendous amount of need for new revenue to be able to fund the services that I believe are expected by the citizens.
City will hold a public hearing for the budget next Monday where residents and businesses interested in commenting on the city's finances can participate. An item on the budget: sidewalk improvements. Joplin City Manager presented a plan that included data from a city survey on Joplin sidewalks. Now that they have the data, they'll start to prioritize areas most in need of improvement and the kinds of improvements necessary. Areas for improvement include taking care of trees, uprooting sidewalks, which the city plans to tackle by creating a tree inventory. Kansas lawmakers began 5 days of town hall meetings on redrawing the state's political boundaries. Their first 3 sessions yesterday came ahead of the release of the census data that they need to do the job, and with Republicans facing accusations that they are rushing the hearings. The House and Senate redistricting committees had meetings scheduled in Manhattan, Salina, and Hayes, and a total of 14 events across the state through Friday. Democrats say the GOP-controlled legislature is stifling participation by scheduling the hearings over just 5 days. Republicans say the meetings are just a first step. Census data for cities and counties will be released on Thursday. Webb City authorities say a man shot by officers last week has died, and another man involved in the altercation is officially charged. It happened last Thursday. Webb City police say they responded to the 800 block of East Fountain for an illegal dumping trespassing call. When they arrived, a fight broke out, and a suspect allegedly tried to get a hold of an officer's gun and was shot. That man, 36-year-old Ayler Escobar from Webb City, died at the hospital. A second man, Macur Alicinar Escobar Veliquez, is charged with resisting a lawful detention and 2 counts of assaulting a police officer. The officers involved in the altercation are recovering from injuries and are on administrative leave pending the results of a Missouri Highway Patrol investigation. A man is left dead following a crash in Neosho County. It happened yesterday a little before 1 in the afternoon on Elk Road. Kansas Highway Patrol says a vehicle driven by 71-year-old Carol Huckey of Parsons, Kansas, and her passenger, 71-year-old Charles Greer of Humboldt, were traveling east when they turned in front of a semi. The semi hit the passenger side of the car, killing Greer. Huckey was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Montgomery County, Kansas Sheriff's Office says deputies found a body in the Verdigris River near Coffeyville. Authorities discovered the body around 3:30 Monday afternoon. The Sheriff's Office says they do not suspect foul play. The name of the victim is not being released until next of kin is notified. We've lost 6 more people in Joplin and in Jasper County with COVID-19. The Joplin Health Department reports 4 more COVID-19 deaths. The patients were 2 women, one who was 63, the other 71, and 2 men ages 63 and 67. The latest deaths bring the city's total to 153 deaths. And in Jasper County, 2 more people died with the virus. They were a woman in her 70s and a man in his 50s. Those deaths bring Jasper County's total outside of Joplin to 177. Well, James River Church is hosting a follow-up vaccine clinic. This is for anyone who received a shot at the first event back in July. They're also offering the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The event is this coming Thursday, August the 12th, from 10 a.m. to noon. You can register in advance, but walk-ins are welcome. Hungarian husbands carry their wives over rough terrain in the country's second wife carrying contest. It's so much fun at the first one, they decided to do it again. Some 40 husbands carried their wives in Saturday's contest. Previous race in October only attracted about a dozen couples. Organizers credited the increase to the emergence from a difficult period in the coronavirus pandemic, saying people just wanted to have some fun. The wife carrying contest has origins that date back to the Viking Age. In modern times, though, it's been well established in Finland since the 1990s.
The husband's got the easy job. I feel sorry for the women being carried right there.
Especially if their husband is
I
short.
know, they're getting dropped in the water.
Yeah, definitely have the advantage
Just
if
the jostling while he's
your SO
running.
is tall. Otherwise, you're going under.
I laugh if one of the wives is like, no, I'm going to carry you. Oh!
Man.
That's going to be an uncomfortable conversation to have tonight when they get home.
Hey, she'd been at the waist backwards. That looked painful. Oh, now he's cheating.
Oh, why is that cheating? She probably told him that's the way it's going to be. She's like, now look here. Let me explain to you how this works.
Well, you notice that one wasn't winning?
I bet you they probably won. Gift bag. Can't beat it.
She got the trophy, he got the gift bag, and it's a bunch of stuff to pamper her with.
And Mountain Dew, evidently. Live look outside of Television City. The sun beating down on us already, as we've got a lot more 80s out there at this point in time than what we had yesterday. So the heat is a-coming, and tell you what, so was the wind. I was looking at arrows coming in right there, about 10, 15 miles per hour. Let's roll 80 in Joplin, 79 in Chanute, 77 in Monette, and 79 as well in Miami. There's a look at our heat advisories. We are all encompassing when it comes to those. We're also paying attention to some thunderstorm activity that's riding I-70, because if you've got a trip up north on 69 or 49, you're going to be running into this. Very slow mover. This thing just has not wanted to progress as it makes its way toward not only Kansas City, but up towards St. Joe. We haven't yet to see any of our counties receive a drop of rain from this, and even if we do, it's going to be very, very light. If it does hit our northern counties, those levels stick around for a little bit, because like I said, the thing just doesn't want to budge. Heat wave moves all the way to the east coast. The thunderstorm activity kind of sits there at the Great Lakes. And here's why the heat advisory lasts all the way into Thursday, because our temperatures do not want to back off here for the next several days. Feeling about like 105 to 107 each and every one of those afternoons indicated as an alert day.
I see you decided to bump Saturday and Sunday up a degree from yesterday.
Yeah, went ahead and went 90 with them.
Well, closer to what it feels like anyway. Closer. Up next, why health experts say getting a COVID vaccine is more than worth the risk of a breakthrough infection. The community of Ferguson, Missouri reflects on the death of Michael Brown 7 years later. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. A top U.S. health official says while breakthrough COVID-19 infections can and will happen in people who've been vaccinated, the majority will not get seriously ill or be hospitalized because the vaccines work. Mandy Gaither has what you need to know if you're vaccinated and get infected.
Our vaccines are working exceptionally well.
As the Delta variant surges through unvaccinated populations across the U.S., the CDC director says breakthrough infections are possible in those who are vaccinated.
With 164 million people who are vaccinated, we should expect tens of thousands, perhaps, of breakthrough infections.
Dr. Rochelle Walensky also says vaccinated people who get breakthrough infections can transmit the virus, but they're also infected less frequently.
Those breakthrough infections have mild illness. They are staying out of the hospital. They are not dying. And I think that that's the most important thing to understand.
The CDC recommends the fully vaccinated wear a mask in public indoor settings where the spread of COVID-19 is substantial or high, especially if you or a loved one are immunocompromised or at a higher risk for severe disease. The CDC still recommends any fully vaccinated person experiencing COVID-19 symptoms get tested. And if there's a close contact with someone suspected or confirmed to have COVID-19, the fully vaccinated should be tested 3 to 5 days after exposure and wear a mask in public indoor settings for 2 weeks or until a negative test result. If there's a positive COVID-19 test in the prior 10 days, the CDC says to isolate from others. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
U.S. health officials say the Delta variant has been especially devastating in regions with low vaccination rates. That's why experts and government officials nationwide continue to urge people to get their shots before a dire situation gets even worse. Well, here's something a little more relaxing. A field filled with fragrant flowers, 90,000 beaming sunflowers to be exact. That's beautiful. What started as an agricultural project has become an annual bright spot for visitors of the Auburndale School Forest in Wisconsin. And now with the new addition of a wheelchair accessible bridge, which provides an eye-level, flowery field of view. It's now enjoyable for visitors of all abilities.
Beautiful. Where was that?
In Wisconsin.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. That's huge.
90,000. I can't wrap my head around 90,000 sunflowers. How neat.
I like that bridge too. That's cool.
Well, let's take a look over 7th and Range line, where the sun is finally crept over the old tree line there. Our current conditions, 80 degrees. And like I said, that wind going to play a factor today. Come in about 10 to 15 miles per hour. You know, go back to that July heat wave. It was the humidity that got us, because oftentimes it was very still during the afternoon and evening hours. The breeze isn't really too bad, but of course it does warm us up rather quickly as well. We've got 80 in Neosho and Oswego, 79 in Miami and Carthage, and let's roll 78 in Pittsburgh and Fort Scott. There's a look at our heat advisories that we're under all the way until Thursday. And you'll notice these have now pressed east of the Mississippi as the heat wave just continues to make itself known all the way to the Atlantic coast. Skywatch storm tracker for us remains clear, but we're looking at this thunderstorm that's riding I-70 on its way to Kansas City, just in case you've got to make a trip up to the north. This thing did have a severe thunderstorm warning associated with it earlier. That expired, though, around 5:45. It's been a while since it had any warnings with it. But also, too, it threw down some hail. And that is extreme heavy rain and lightning. And as this thing makes its way east to northeast throughout the course of the day, it's going to pack a little punch there the farther it gets closer to the Great Lakes, where they even find themselves in that elevated threat of severe weather. The Skywatch storm tracker from the national perspective shows you if you're fortunate enough to be on the northeast side of the jet stream, that's not too bad. You get down here and nope, you're going to be locked in with good old-fashioned August heat, which is exactly where we find ourselves not only up until Thursday, but we're still riding 90s there by the end of the work week. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Downstream
Well, area students start to move into college dorms ahead of the upcoming semester. The fall semester starts next week for several area colleges and universities. So some students have already started moving back to campus. While many hope the year will be as normal as possible, the pandemic will make that difficult. KOAM's Zach Dodge has some of the policies that could shape the year for students who live on campus.
Parents and students prepare to play real-life Tetris, moving fridges, beds, and everything in between into dorm rooms at Pitt State.
It went pretty smoothly. I'm waiting for my roommate to get here.
Move-in day isn't until later on in the week, but athletes, band members, and Greek life members like Blair Wilson get a head start.
I'm so excited. It was kind of sad leaving home, but I feel like I've spent enough time here. Just my brother went here, and so I've spent lots of time here, and it already feels like home.
But getting moved in wasn't the first step.
Students are required to either show us proof of vaccination or proof of a prior illness before moving in.
Either that or get tested. And that's not the only change because of the pandemic. Students who've been vaccinated won't have to quarantine, but those who aren't vaccinated and test positive will have to move off campus during their isolation or quarantine period.
They will go home or they'll go to a friend's house. I mean, they make those arrangements by and large on their own. But you know, if there were an extreme situation, then of course the university would do whatever we could do to help out.
An hour south at Crowder College in Neosho, students Jose Figueroa and Emerson Ortiz have most of campus to themselves because soccer players were the first to move in.
Nervous, a little bit, scared, but it's fine.
The other roughly 300 students will move in at the end of the week. Mask wearing and vaccinations are encouraged on campus, and if students have to be placed in isolation or quarantine, they'll be put in a dorm room that's left empty for that purpose.
We also have our food service tied in to that so that we're able to deliver meals during that time and you know, keep things about as normal as they can be.
I think because they already went through it last year, most of the professors and a lot of the students will kind of know how to handle it and what to expect for the most part. So hopefully it'll be ran pretty smoothly and we can have a somewhat normal year.
Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Students at Pitt State will not have a roommate unless they request to have one, and students at Crowder will have the option of getting their own rooms. Well, Pitt State is offering an incentive to students who get vaccinated against COVID-19 from now until September 17th. Any student with regular on-campus classes who submit proof of vaccination will receive a $500 scholarship. Those students will also be entered to win one of two $8,500 grand prizes. That's equivalent to a semester's worth of full tuition, fees, meals, and housing. Again, the incentive applies to undergraduate students, graduate students, international students, and any other student who regularly attends classes on campus. Miami Oklahoma School Board yesterday honored a 4-year-old for his efforts to provide school supplies to students. Last week, Kurt Moore ran a lemonade stand, sold cinnamon rolls, and got help from local businesses to raise money. In total, he managed to make $2,000, which he donated to the school district to pay for supplies for students.
I just love doing lemonade stands, and my brother's helping out with us, and my mom helped out with us too. And the customers were just being nice and just come to get lemonade.
Well, as a thank you, the board made Kurt an honorary member. I bet his lemonade was good too. We'll be right back. It's time to honor today's four-state hero. McKinley Allen served in the United States Army. He fought in World War I as a member of the Army Horse Cavalry. His hometown, Mound City, Kansas. We are proud to salute McKinley Allen, our four-state hero. The shooting death of an unarmed 18-year-old Michael Brown by a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri 7 years ago sparked civil unrest across the country. Caused a lot of heartache and pain within the community. On Monday, people gathered on the same street where Brown was gunned down. They celebrated Brown's life and legacy on the anniversary of his death. As Pepper Baker reports, there have been some changes and healing in the community.
It's like the energy bounces off all the walls out here. It's almost like it just happened.
Michael Brown Sr., his family and supporters gather for the 7th year at the exact spot where his son was shot and killed by police.
It's always going to be a legacy for Mike Brown because Mike Brown brought people together. We stand out here, we stand in solidarity, because of what happened.
Congresswoman Cori Bush and Ferguson Mayor Ella Jones showed their support as part of the change that's happened in leadership since 2014.
The police department has made some changes. We have seen that. The city council has made changes. We have an amazing activist from the Ferguson movement on the council in Fran Griffin. We have the first black mayor in Ella Jones. And I know that the people this community feels is starting to really feel heard.
Vice President of Ferguson Business Association Joshua Ray Davis was in his office on West Florissant Avenue that day, and he's seen the impact on business after the riots.
Over 60% of a lot of those small businesses went away because of the mark on our character and a mark, a smear that happened after the uprising and after the Mike Brown death.
Davis led efforts with business owners who stayed to rebuild Ferguson. 7 years later, he says there's progress.
With development coming in, with the Boys and Girls Club coming in, to giving the youth another alternative, I think that's the positive thing and a positive swing or pivot that comes out of all of the uprising, melee, and the area that just went left.
The police officer who killed Michael Brown has not faced any charges. Now, Brown's death brought a wrongful death lawsuit against the city. Brown's family did, of course, and they reached a settlement in 2017. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, a new technology creating quite a buzz.
Experts say climate change is wiping out bees and putting our food supply at risk. I'm Jackie Ibanez with more on how a robotic hive is giving these pollinating insects some hope for survival. Straight ahead.
And how the Delta variant could impact your summer travel plans. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
Don't miss 4 States' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Webb City authorities say a man shot by officers last week has died, and another man involved in the altercation is officially charged. It happened last Thursday. Webb City police say they responded to the 800 block of East Fountain for an illegal dumping trespassing call. When they arrived, a fight broke out and a suspect allegedly tried to get a hold of an officer's gun and was shot. That man, 36-year-old Ayler Escobar from Webb City, died at the hospital. A second man, Macor Alicinar Escobar Veliquez, is charged with resisting a lawful detention and 2 counts of assaulting a police officer. The officers involved in the altercation are recovering from injuries and are on administrative leave pending the results of a Missouri Highway Patrol investigation. A man is left dead following a crash in Neosho County. It happened yesterday a little before 1 in the afternoon on Elk Road. Kansas Highway Patrol says a vehicle driven by 71-year-old Carol Huck of Parsons, Kansas, and her passenger, 71-year-old Charles Greer of Humboldt, Kansas, were traveling east when they turned in front of a semi. Semi hit the passenger side of the car, killing Greer. Huck was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Montgomery County, Kansas Sheriff's Office says deputies found a body in the Verdigris River near Coffeyville. Authorities discovered the body around 3:30 Monday afternoon. Sheriff's Office says they do not suspect foul play. The name of the victim is not being released until next of kin is notified. At Monday night's Joplin work session, City Manager Nick Edwards presented the council with the city budget for 2022. City Manager says their biggest goal for the upcoming fiscal year is to improve city services. These services include addressing declining neighborhoods, public safety, and homelessness. Vice President Kamala Harris's husband made a stop in Kansas yesterday. The second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, and Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona visited a vaccine clinic at a high school in Topeka. Emhoff and Cardona spoke with high school students about the importance of getting vaccinated against COVID-19, and they asked the students to help spread the word and encourage others to get the vaccine.
But we knew as an administration, and the Secretary knows this too, that we knew fighting this virus was going to be very tough. We knew it was going to be a challenge, but we knew it was going to require all of us working together. And so by getting vaccinated, which you've all done, and I know you've encouraged your family and friends to do it because you've told us about that already, you are all playing such an important role in this fight against coronavirus.
The vast majority of kindergarten through 8th grade students nationwide are not vaccinated against COVID-19, as only the Pfizer-BioNTech has received emergency use authorization for individuals as young as 12 years old. An incredibly tense situation caught on camera when floodwaters sweeping through Omaha, Nebraska came rushing in on Tony Liu and his 3 friends inside an elevator in his apartment building. Liu said they tried to stay calm, but the waters continued to rise. Trapped inside the elevator, they called 911, and Tony called a friend who happened to be a maintenance worker for the building. Those trapped inside fought to get out as Liu's friend tried to pry his way in. 10 minutes later, their efforts paid off, and everyone made it out safely.
Okay, that's the best part, that everybody was safe. Number one, boy, you want to talk about fortuitous. Happen to have a friend who's a maintenance worker in that building. Like, how crazy is that, right?
Yeah.
Whose phone was rolling the entire time? Instead of trying to pry doors open.
Yeah.
Look, everybody's on their phone. It's amazing.
They had faith they'd be okay.
I understand capturing the moment, folks, but let me out, let us in, let us in. You know that one?
Maybe they were like Facebook Living it so that
Right.
somebody hopefully would tune in and help them.
If that's the case and it worked, more power to them, because they got out safely. All right, we're tracking our own rain activity. Now we're not, we don't have any flooding or anything like that. Well, we've been focusing in on this one for the morning. Now we see it just clipping our far northern counties, our highlighted counties up by Garnett. But look at all the heavy rain right there along I-70, making its way toward Kansas City. This thing's not only packing lightning, whoo, but it's also thrown down some hail as well. If you've got to take Highway 69 or Highway 49 up toward Kansas City, that is what you are going to run into. If you're staying at home, well, you're going to be hot, because we've got heat advisories for the rest of our day and tomorrow and Thursday. Already 80 degrees in Joplin as we're going to work up into the mid-90s later on this afternoon. Any chance for rain that we get is going to be afternoon and evening, mainly to the north, nothing organized, lasting about 10 to 15 minutes before it disperses. And that's also the case with Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Dropping down to the 90s. On Saturday and Sunday. I think after this front passes through by tomorrow, we'll actually see Saturday and Sunday drop into the high 80s. We'll be back. More KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 and our Insta poll right after this. The KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Members of the military have to roll up their sleeves and get the COVID-19 vaccine because a memo released yesterday requires members of the military to get the vaccine by September 15. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin saying he will not hesitate to push up that deadline. As a matter of fact, Secretary Austin's decision comes a little more than a week after President Biden told defense officials to develop a plan requiring troops to get the shot. Our question for you this morning is, should military members be required to receive the COVID-19 vaccine? We've been back and forth all morning long. As a matter of fact, it just flipped compared to when we just started the story. That's how great the Insta poll is, updates like that. 53% of you now say no, 47% saying yes, and we'll try to check back in here. Make your voice heard by going to koamnewsnow.com/vote. Tanya?
All right, thanks, Michael. A Minnesota preteen wanted something very unusual for her birthday, a COVID-19 vaccine. The rising middle schooler is hoping to have a happy, I wonder what that means, rising middle schooler. She's hoping to have a happy and healthy school year. Barrett Leone has her story.
Pfizer shot today?
It's not a typical request for a 12-year-old.
And it was just your birthday recently, right? Mm-hmm. Happy birthday.
But Cadence Morrison knew exactly what she wanted for her birthday this year.
Get vaccinated. She said months ago, I know what I want for my birthday. I want the COVID vaccine.
Yeah. And Cadence isn't the only one.
We have seen quite an increase in 12 and up getting the shot. For a 12-year-old that just recently turned 12, that's not super common, so that's really awesome for her.
Smith has been administering COVID shots since the beginning.
And then can I get your date of birth, please?
And says shots for those 12 and up have gone up more than 50% in the last month alone.
I think a lot of parents are starting to try to get their kids vaccinated before school starts here in a couple weeks.
Oh, it's a relief because she'll be starting a newer, bigger school, and we have to wait 3 weeks for the second one, but at least we've started the process, so she'll be protected.
And now Cadence,
you ready?
Plans to encourage others her age to do the same.
Just do it. It won't hurt. It felt just like the flu shot.
Well, Cadence is starting 6th grade at her middle school in Minnesota. She's looking forward to being back in the classroom full time. Well, if you're still looking for work, there's no shortage of opportunities right now. Record number of jobs have been added in June. 10.1 million are available. This comes as businesses struggle to hire enough staff to support the reopening of the economy. In a report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, most of the jobs are in professional and business services, hotels, and restaurants. Many people looking for jobs are still faced with some challenges, such as childcare and concerns about catching the virus at work. In June, the number of hires rose by 6.7 million, and the layoff level did not budge. More than 6,300 pounds of Panera Bread's ready-to-eat chicken tortilla soup have been recalled. The 16-ounce containers have been contaminated with glove pieces. That's disgusting. Glove pieces. The USDA notice says soup maker Blount Fine Foods received several consumer complaints reporting pieces of gray nitrile glove in the product, but no reports of illness. Now we know why we can't find those gloves anywhere. The recalled soup was made on July 1st and has a use-by date of September 9th. People who bought it are being told to throw it away or return it to the store. Please don't eat the gloves. They're not edible. The Delta variant is forcing people to rethink their international travel plans just as countries started to reopen for tourists. Yesterday, Canada opened its borders to American tourists for the first time since March of 2020. All while the CDC is adding 16 countries to its very high COVID-19 risk level. Mandy Gaither has a closer look at the travel dilemma for some late summer travelers.
Should you stay or should you go? The Delta variant triggering changes in travel restrictions and health measures, making some travelers rethink their upcoming international trips.
There are still lots of hoops to jump through. If you're vaccinated, if you wear a mask indoors and eat outdoors, you can manage your risk and make the best decision for yourself.
Not long after countries in Europe, the UK, and others announced reopening plans and lifted restrictions, some have had to pivot, bringing back testing requirements.
Even if you're vaccinated, you still need to take a test within 3 days of coming back to the U.S. I do know people who have had those tests delayed. God forbid you test positive abroad. Depending on the country, you may even need to go into a mandatory hotel quarantine.
On Monday, Canada reopened its borders, allowing fully vaccinated Americans in for the first time since March 2020.
Canada, they're going to be vigilant about checking those vaccines. You still have to get tested.
This comes as the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention added 16 destinations to its very high COVID-19 risk level, including Greece, Ireland, and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
It's kind of interesting because the CDC has that level 4 warning for a lot of countries that actually are handling COVID a lot better than the U.S.
Meanwhile, a victory for one of the world's largest cruise lines. A judge has ruled Norwegian Cruise Line can require passengers show proof of a COVID-19 vaccination before boarding any of its ships in Florida. The Florida governor's office says they will appeal. For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
CDC has placed Canada at level 3 high for COVID-19. Level 4 is the highest warning. CDC says people should be fully vaccinated before visiting other countries as well as other locations within the U.S. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell. It's time for What the Tech. Folks are going to have to wait a bit longer to get their hands on a Cybertruck. Tesla recently updated the Cybertruck booking website to share production on the vehicles is delayed now until 2022. The Cybertruck order page now reads, quote, "You will be able to complete your configuration as production nears in 2022. When the truck was first debuted in 2019, the company said it would hit the market towards the end of 2021. It appears that delay will affect all 3 versions of the truck, the single motor, double motor, and the tri-motor. Well, the movie theater company AMC Entertainment will be accepting Bitcoin by the end of the year, though. The company's CEO, Adam Aron, says that by that time, the company will have the technology in place to take the digital currency as payment for movie tickets and concessions. Business analysts say the move marks the joining of 2 highly speculative entities, Bitcoin and AMC. Bees make up a critical component to our global food supply, and environmentalists say if bees are in trouble, so are we. While climate change is crippling bee populations around the world, one robotic hive is offering a glimmer of hope. Jackie Ibanez reports.
A new United Nations climate report out Monday is spelling out major trouble, outlining the countless ways human-caused climate change is putting the planet and the creatures inhabiting it in turmoil. And it turns out climate change, along with harmful farming techniques and the use of pesticides, are all contributing to massive declines in global bee populations. But one company out of Israel is hoping its robotic hive can save these pollinating insects.
What we see here is the bee home. It houses 24 colonies.
Armed with special cameras and artificial intelligence, the bee home is taking beekeeping to the next level.
Anything a beekeeper would do, the robotic mechanism can mimic and do it more effectively.
This high-tech device not only closely monitors each hive for disease, it can treat those problems by administering medicines and also fix damage. And once cameras detect some golden honey, well, the bee home's robotic arm can even harvest it. Meanwhile, even if you're afraid of bugs, experts say what could happen to us if bee populations continue to dwindle is even scarier.
Bees pollinate 75% of the fruit, vegetables, nuts, which we eat. So by empowering the bees and making sure that they're healthy, we're actually making sure that our food chain is secure.
Although there are close to 3 million bee colonies here in the U.S., 35% are wiped out every year. But officials say the bee home can reduce the overall death rate of bees by 80%.
Michael, I'm still intrigued on how they know what kind of medicines and how to treat these bees with that.
Yeah, but if they've already got to the robotic stage, I mean,
wow.
I know, it's crazy.
Do you think the bees need ibuprofen?
Oh, thunderstorm activity working up to our north. A good bout of it along I-70. We're seeing a little bit of it right there just north of Garnett. And this thing's packing not only some serious rain on it, but also there's your lightning strikes in just the past 5 minutes alone. So it's just about on 69, making its way toward 49. Now the reason I concentrate on this is because if you're headed up KC Way, this thing is very slow moving. If you're headed up really anywhere to the north, even you don't even have to get to Kansas City. You're going to run into some very, very heavy rain. And once again, if you're going to stay in the 4 states, well, then you just get stuck in a heat advisory because it's going to be a scorcher here at home. There's a live look over 7th and Rangeline where we're already sitting at 80 degrees. Feels like 84. The wind has been very consistent this morning, 10 to 15 miles per hour, and later on we're going to gust around 20 to 25 miles per hour. A whole bunch of high 70s and low 80s with those heat advisories stretching all the way east of the Mississippi. As a matter of fact, we've seen great expansion of those since yesterday. So the heat wave pushes east, but we got to wait about 3 more days before it pushes east of us. That's why we've got those alert days on Tuesday, Wednesday, and the heat advisory lasting all the way to Thursday. We'll be back and wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. The Pentagon will soon require all members of the U.S. military to be vaccinated against COVID-19. In a memo distributed to troops, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said a healthy armed forces is necessary for national security. The rule is expected to go into effect next month. After months of negotiations, today the Senate is expected to vote on a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. The White House-backed measure is expected to pass over the objections of many Republican lawmakers who say it's too expensive. And the Dixie Fire has been burning in Northern California for nearly 4 weeks. It now covers roughly 500,000 acres and is considered the largest single wildfire in that state's history. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Hot one today, feeling about like 105 to 107 with that south wind gusting up to 25 miles an hour. Wind really doesn't back down overnight. Still going at 10 to 15. Speaking of overnight, any rain that we do see pop up wants to be more so on the northern portion of the 4 states, kind of filters into the central. But all the heavy rain stays up in between Kansas City and St. Joe. The alert days persist all the way to Thursday, even on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when we back off. Still looking pretty warm right there into the weekend.
Well, visitors to Disney World's newly reopened Hall of Presidents will be greeted by a familiar face. President Joe Biden. The animatronic version of the 46th president debuted at the attraction and features audio recorded by President Biden himself and those signature aviator sunglasses. All right.
What's up with the sunglasses?
He likes to wear those.
Well, I know, but I thought they were one they just put them on him.
I know, they were just sitting on the table.
Okay. All right, I was just curious. All right, thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. Be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and even better day.